Welcome back to Desk Careers, everybody. I'm so excited to have another amazing spotlight speaker with us today. We are based in the UAE, zooming into Arsalan Al Hashimi, who is going to be talking about his career journey from being a teenager who was passionate about sciences and maths to his current role today as a high-performance master coach and dad. Welcome, Arsalan. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
It's so exciting to have you here. I say this every time I meet someone new, but it really, really is exciting for me to be able to bring career journeys like yours and share them with our students and our community as well. So I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy morning to be with us and talk about your story. Arsalan, when I reached out to you and I asked you to be part of this series that we have going at Desk, what was your initial thought when you knew that your story would be shared with our students?
I mean, in all honesty, I kind of don't fit into the mold of traditional education in terms of how I think and how I feel and how I've come around to my career and where I am in life at the moment. I am one of those people that believes in the school of life a lot more than kind of the rigorous student kind of life, because where I sit now and the kind of people I advise and help and coach, a lot of them didn't have a very successful traditional education. I certainly didn't have like an Ivy school kind of education that I was told was going to get me to the best place in my career. And then my career kind of reflected that. I was surrounded by a lot of Ivy school people and people that went the traditional route. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I just think that it didn't fit me. And I personally don't think that it fits the where we are today in 2020 and the kind of skills that um, people need in their career at the moment and in their human growth in general, the human growth journey.
I really appreciate
So when you
that.
asked me, I was like, maybe I wouldn't be able to say the right things or be politically correct or whatever. But and I've vowed in my life to speak my truth, and so I'm really happy that you allowed me to, because this is the first time I do this a lot, and this is the first time I'm allowed to do something like this. So it's pretty cool. I'm excited. Thank you for allowing me to.
We're so excited to have you. I'm really, really appreciating that you're being very candid with us and sharing your experience. I know that there are young people watching this and parents watching this thinking, you know what, my child doesn't want to go the traditional path. How do I support them? Or as a young person thinking, all of my peers are going in this direction, but I really don't know if that's the direction for me. And wanting to hear stories like yours, I think is really going to help them. So thank you so much. Let's go back to your teenage years. You said to me that you were a student, a high school student who was interested in the maths and sciences and computer science. How did you get from that passion for those subjects to becoming a high performance master coach?
I think early on, I was very interested in how things work. So throughout my life and my career, I've been really interested in how things operate and specifically the human body and the human mind and how we've come to create things, where they come from. Um, and that kind of led me to be very passionate about physics and biology and chemistry, because it kind of gave me a lot of answers. Um, and also math kind of, I think when you study math when you're really young, I think a lot of people don't understand how much math is involved in discovering how the universe has been created, and all these calculations and are very, very intricate in trying to find out how everything has been created in a sense, right? Um, And then as things evolved and as I started growing older, that kind of poured into my interests in human performance in terms of physical human performance, because I became an athlete. I got an athletic scholarship in NCAA in the States, and human performance became very, very interesting to me from a physical perspective. And then later down the line, because of a lot of health conditions that I had from being an extreme athlete and being an extreme corporate person and in my career and all of that, then I started getting interested in the mindset and the mind, and there's a lot of science that goes into that too. And then I discovered quantum physics and quantum science, which completely elevated all of this information to a different level. So that's where it comes from, really. It's just a really deep interest in how things work.
How did you feel starting your university academic journey as a student studying engineering to then graduating and doing a completely different degree at the end of your academic university journey?
I mean, and to be very honest with you, you have to kind of have the context of where I was when I selected what to study. I was here in Abu Dhabi. I was 16 years old when I graduated, almost graduating high school. I had to make my option. We didn't have internet in those days. Those were like the early 90s. So really, I didn't know. I didn't know what options I had. I thought we had 4 or 5 options: engineering, doctor, go to the army, these standard things that an Arab parent in those days kind of pushed you towards. So biomechanical engineering sounded like something really, really different and really cool. I don't really remember how I heard of it, but it had an element of human performance. And so I just kind of blindly jumped into it. Didn't really have any background information. Students these days have access to a lot more information online, and they can actually understand what there is. The interesting thing is when I went to university and I went to go sign up for my courses, they gave me a manual that was about this thick, full of options and careers and crazy. Like the university I went to was huge, had like 40, 50,000 students. So every single career under the sun was available. And it was kind of a shock to the system. That was the first time I realized that, the sky's the limit. You can really study anything you want.
That's amazing. And you're so right. There's so much choice, and guiding young people to really understand those occupation options ahead of them is key. It's really key. It's that guidance, the awareness of knowing what's available to them. And you're right. In your time and my time, we didn't have those things available to us. So it was kind of like driving from point A to point B with those paper maps, as opposed to now having Google Maps right at our fingertips. Arsalan, talk to us about your role. What is a high performance master coach, and how did your university degree offer you skills, transferable skills, if it did, in your current role?
I mean, a high performance master coach, I would define it as somebody that helps people perform to their bestest. Let's put it that way. My clients are either they range from like house moms all the way to professional athletes and CEOs and COOs that are trying to perform at their top level. I've also worked with teenagers. I've worked with children all the way down to the age of 7 or 8. So the way I came to what I do right now was because of my own health issues and wanting to come back to performing at a peak and performing at my best. And so I started the journey by through nutrition, and that's how I became a health coach. And then I kind of started realizing that I needed to back that up with the mind and the mindset, like I was saying before. And so I became a master life coach, a master hypnotherapist, a master NLP practitioner, a master relationship coach, and several other things. A master timeline practitioner, which is timeline paradigm practitioner, sorry, which is all quantum healing, quantum physics. Just because I wanted to kind of find a 360 degree of helping people from all sides, because it's all a kind of 360-degree kind of approach, excuse me, a holistic approach. My education, I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Visual Communications, and I specialize in branding and photography. Honestly, every little thing helps when you're an entrepreneur. So I own multiple businesses. Branding, I never had to go to like a designer to create my brand for me, my brand strategy. And that's why these businesses were successful. I grew all my businesses organically because I was able to grow them myself, to be honest. I didn't have to go out to kind of find somebody. And that kind of also goes, works with every single step of my career, because my career was very vast um, and very varied, I guess. I'm trying to look for the word. Dynamically different in everything I did. So all of it kind of pours into where I am right now.
Amazing. Okay, Arsalan, we're going to dive a little deeper, if that's okay. We're going to go and learn a little bit more about you, the individual. I think what impresses me the most about meeting someone like you today is your honesty and sharing the reality of what's going on in your career journey. I know that you're married to a wonderful woman and you have a child. And when I asked you about your work, you said that you were working from home, and that meant that you were also a stay-at-home dad helping with your daughter. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that's like to be working from home and being predominantly the at-home parent for your child when gender stereotypes push towards females taking on that role?
I mean, look, from day one when I got married, and 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 forever actually, I don't see marriage as a gender rolled uh, cohabitation, if you would call it that. It's it can't be like that. I think maybe at some point in history it worked because of where we were, because of wars and World War I and World War II. That's really what created that kind of atmosphere, and religion and all of these things that kind of have been misunderstood and misconstrued. But I think in the current times where both parents have to go to work, and women had to carry on a little bit of the typical male gender roles, and the males had to take some of the women's gender role, is that I started realizing that this whole marriage thing needs to be sort of like teamwork, and everybody needs to play to their strengths, because that's the best way to make it work. And I've in my life in general, I've never looked at women that way, that they're less than or weaker in either ways or whatever. I believe that we both have um, God-given gifts that are very different, but at the same time, I don't believe that that is a general rule for everybody. There are some people that excel at certain things, and there's some people that don't. And in our marriage, uh, and the situation we were in when we got Ayla, was that my wife had the privilege and the ability to be able to have a really good job in the government in Abu Dhabi, and she was the major breadwinner, and that was amazing. Like it was amazing for her career and amazing for us as a family. So she was providing, and I was blessed to be able to stay at home and work from home. So naturally, it just kind of fell into that role, and I love it. I was so excited about it. I mean, I love kids, and when I had my daughter, I was attached to her from the first moment. So my daughter I was the first person that she's ever seen. I actually like gave birth to my daughter, so I kind of wanted to continue that, to be always the father that's present in her life.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
and I
much.
and I generally know. Sorry, I generally know how much girls kind of want, in general, psychologically need their father to be around, and the male figure for daughters in particular. Of course, this applies to sons also, but for daughters is extremely important. So I just kind of wanted to fill that role, to be honest.
How has your community shown, what kind of responses have you received from your community because you are working from home and Isla's, you know, prominent parent at home?
I have no clue. Honestly, I really do not know. I mean, this is the honest answer. I could tell you I do. Nobody's ever said anything bad to me, and no one has ever said anything good to me. And I think it's because people know how brutal I am about where I stand about things, and I'm somebody that has integrity as his first value. So I think people and my family and my friends all understand that. First of all, I wouldn't make a decision like that unless it's completely thought through. And second of all, I quite frankly don't care. Honestly, to be honest,
It's so
I'm
refreshing.
enjoying what I'm doing.
It's so refreshing to hear you, because I know that there will be a student listening to this, especially the young girls, thinking, oh, am I going to be able to have a career and have a family? And to be able to feel confident knowing that 2020, we are talking to a professional who is very comfortable in the Middle East to be taking on a role like this. So thank you. Just as we're coming to the end of the interview, Arsalan, I know that your highlights of your career have been all about adapting to change. What do you want to tell a young person listening in right now about your journey from studying biochemical engineering, biomedical engineering, to your current role as a master coach while also taking care of Isla at home? How has adaptation really been that highlight and the key for your success?
I mean, adaptation is one thing, but also I really, really stress that parents and students alike educate themselves about this concept of flowing. It's called flow, which is basically kind of surrendering to the universe and just kind of going with the flow. Sometimes you really want to do something, and the universe sends you something completely different. The universe will show you signs. I mean, I started off liking math and science, and I was a professional athlete since I was 12 years old. I had no clue I was going to come back. When I came back, my parent and my older brother lost their jobs. So I had to provide for my family. I got into the government, worked in the airport in cargo, grew up the ranks in the airport, and then transportation, and then I worked in film, and then I became an Ironman athlete, and now I'm doing this, just kind of like don't really stress about these decisions, because at the end of the day, whatever comes to you will come from God and from the universe, and just kind of follow your heart and see if you want to do it. And then don't be worried, because you can always change, you can always adapt, you can always do whatever you want to do. Just kind of live your life with integrity. Make sure you understand your values and what you stand for, and the universe will kind of provide to you the situations. And the most important thing is that the bad things that we call bad, I don't call them bad, the negative things that happen to you are also a good thing, because they teach you lessons, and they kind of guide you away from whatever you weren't supposed to do. They're just kind of like an indication of where you need to be. So take everything in a positive manner, and at the end of the day, you will find whatever makes you happy. Just kind of follow your heart. I strongly suggest everybody read this book. I kind of prepared it for you. It's called The Surrender Experiment. By Michael Singer. It's an amazing book that will explain to you this concept of kind of flowing with the universe. It's beautiful.
Thank you so much, Arsalan. Thank you so much for being with us today. And that brings us to the end of another amazing interview with an amazing spotlight speaker. I love what I do, and meeting people like you just remind me how important this work is. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all at our next Careers Digital Spotlight.